Hello, kindergarten. I hope you had fun the last few weeks learning how to draw fish and learning how to do some underlapping and overlapping with your pencil and using your eraser to erase lines and learning all these really cool drawing tricks. So this week we're going to tie all of that together. We're going to continue drawing fish, we're going to continue overlapping, and we're going to use all of those techniques that you've learned to make a really nice under the sea drawing. I'm going to do one with you and you can watch, and then you can do your own but make it different. You do not have to draw your under the sea drawing just like mine. So if I make coral but you want to add seaweed, or if I make a whale but you want to make a shark, you can use what I show you to make your own under the sea drawing. So here we go, follow along and let's get ready. Okay, so all you need for this is a pencil, an eraser, and we will talk about coloring later. So under the sea, we need the bottom of the sea. So usually some sand, so nice and slow. We can create a soft bumpy line. And then you're gonna decide what kinds of things you wanna put in the bottom of your sea. So usually at the bottom of the sea, we might see some seashells, we would see some seaweed growing, some coral, some rocks, the sea life that lives at the bottom of the sea, like clams and oysters. You might even add a sandcastle, a boat coming out of the sand. So this could be really, really creative and super detailed. So the more time you spend, the better this will look. So I'm gonna start by drawing a little sandcastle. And if you can think back to when we learned how to draw fish, it's a great tool to use shapes when you're trying to make a drawing. So you can see, to make a castle, I'm just building with some rectangles, or you could do long sideways rectangles. You can put some pumpkin teeth at the top if you want. You can use triangles. I'm gonna do a little overlap here. I wanna put a rooftop here, which means I would have to do some overlapping. So this is exactly what we're learning. Triangle, and now guess what I have to erase? Yep, you got it. I have to erase that little area right there. So now that roof is going on top of this part of my castle. You could make this castle as detailed as you want. Notice how slow I'm going. Also a good idea not to push on your pencil, so that if you do wind up making a mistake, you can easily erase it. You can add details like doors, windows, and just take your time. Okay, maybe I'll add a seashell. So many different types of ways to draw a seashell. There's not just one way. So whatever way you like to draw them is fine. A little seashell there. Maybe I'll put some rocks. Oh, I overlapped. So now I have to erase this. So anytime you put an object on top of another object, you have to erase the object that's underneath, and that is how overlapping works. So I have these little set of rocks here. I overlapped again. So yes, this does take some time. Maybe I'll add some seaweed. Nice and slow. I could put some seaweed over here. I can go behind my castle. I can have a piece of seaweed coming up from behind my castle like that. Okay, what else? I could put more seashells. I could put, trying to think of what other kind, little pebbles. Draw a seashell like this. Ooh, I just got an idea as I was drawing this. There's a little seashell. I could draw, maybe I'll put a little snail living on this rock here. Okay? So when you think you have a good amount of stuff going on at the bottom of your ocean, and you could keep going with this, you could draw a treasure chest, you could draw, again, like a abandoned sailboat or anything, a pirate ship, whatever you want to put. And then you're going to start thinking about what is kind of floating in the water. And that's where we're going to go back to 2 weeks ago when we learned how to draw different fish. So how did we learn, if I want to add a shark, how did we learn how to draw that shark? We started with an oval. Okay, sharks are long and they kind of have a pointy snout. So there's the shark nose. Okay, here's the long tail. So we're extending his body out. I know it doesn't really look like a shark yet. Here is his tail fin. I think that's called a dorsal fin. A fin on the side. Okay, I'm gonna do some erasing because I need to now, all the little shapes that I just added, they all need to be kind of pieced together. We don't want them to look like separate shapes. So I have some erasing to do. So I'm gonna erase this here. This does not belong here. So again, we're thinking of drawing almost like you're building with shapes, like using shapes like building blocks, sticking them together and piecing them all together, and then erasing the pieces that don't fit. And a little mouth here. Could put some teeth, eye. Could put some bubbles. Now, what if I wanted to make it look like the shark was hiding behind some seaweed? Again, we learned this last week. Just draw the seaweed. This would be a really tall piece of seaweed. I am overlapping. So guess what has to be erased this time? Yep, you got it right here. You could make a school of fish, little fish, simple fish. So I'll make a bunch of circles to start. Then I'll add some tails. Fins. And I know I showed you on our worksheet that there's different ways to draw a fish's mouth. It could be something as simple as just doing that. Doesn't have to be anything too fancy, especially when you're drawing a ton of them. You don't want to have to make anything too complicated. Oh, one choice, you could make the top of the water. You don't have to. You can make a sun if you have some room. You could make some kind of a fish, like a dolphin, maybe sticking part of his tail out of the water. And yes, you can draw mermaids, of course. So I'm gonna stop here, but I would like you guys to have more fish than I do when you do your drawings. And then I know that not everybody has coloring tools at home, but if you do, I would not recommend doing this with markers. If you have something like crayons or colored pencils, it's a lot better because sometimes markers are just a little too dark for a drawing and they kind of take over. So I actually do not have crayons at my house, which I'm really surprised I do not have crayons, but I do have colored pencils. So this would work with either crayons or colored pencils. When you color, try not to go in motions like this where we're all over the place. Okay, because then you're going to create all these lines in your drawing that don't really work with the drawing itself. Instead, practice going in these little soft circles like that. Gently, little controlled circles. You don't have to push hard. Okay, so coloring like that is a lot better than pushing hard and doing something like that. I'm sure you can see the difference. This one looks much better. It's subtle, it's soft, and it doesn't take over the drawing. Okay. All right, so when you're done, feel free to take a picture and email it to me. I really love seeing what you guys are making at home. You don't have to, and if this takes you more than 1 week to finish, that is totally fine too, because I know that some of you are gonna wanna make this really detailed. So if you need to take more than 1 week to do this and you don't send it to me, that's totally fine. It's all about taking your time and having fun. So keep this somewhere safe, and I will talk to you next week. Have fun.